Heated Rivalry. What makes this series so captivating? A psychological perspective. Hi. At the end of 2025, first on Crave and then on HBO Max, a series called Heated Rivalry came out. It follows two rival hockey players, Canadian Hollander and Russian Ilya Rozanov, from fierce opponents on the ice to something much deeper. The show quickly became one of the most talked-about releases of the year. Millions of views, memes everywhere, fan art flooding social media, heated discussions online. Why did this particular story grab so many people so strongly? Today, I just want to share some thoughts on what exactly makes Heated Rivalry feel so magnetic from a psychological point of view. Fresh faces. The first thing that immediately catches your eye is the actors. Hudson, Williams, and Connor Storrie were practically unknown to the general public before this series. They don't have a dozen big roles behind them, no preformed star image already sitting in the viewer's head. This makes it much easier to see yourself in Shane and Ilya. When you watch them, automatic comparison with other projects doesn't kick in. There's no feeling of, oh, that's the same guy from that movie. This is our first impression of them, and first impressions only happen once. Lack of preconceived associations, cognitive schema, and halo effect. When an actor is already known, our brain automatically activates a schema, a ready-made set of expectations based on previous roles. For example, if we saw the actor as a villain, we subconsciously expect a catch. If as a romantic hero, we expect idealization. If in a comedy, we expect jokes. This is called the halo effect or carryover effect. The old image carries over to the new role. New faces equals a blank slate. No baggage. The viewer doesn't spend cognitive resources on recalculating expectations. The character feels immediately fresh and real, unfiltered by past associations. This reduces cognitive load and increases emotional openness. Easier to identify and project yourself, self-insertion and identification theory. According to identification theory, empathy increases when viewers can imagine themselves in a character's position. A famous actor creates a barrier. That's name, he's already been in 10 movies, he's a star. With an unknown actor, that barrier disappears. The viewer subconsciously thinks, this could be me or my friend or the guy from the next building. This works especially well with characters in their late teens and early 20s. The viewer, especially 18-35 audience, more easily projects their own teenage experiences, insecurities, first feelings onto them. A fresh face leaves more room for projection. Primacy effect and trust. Primacy effect plus authenticity bias. The psychology of first impressions, primacy effect, says that the first 30-60 seconds of observation forms 70-80% of our attitude. When the actor is unknown, the first impression is formed exclusively through the role. There's no noise from interviews, scandals, other films. The viewer immediately accepts the character as real. This reinforces our authenticity bias. We trust more the person who seems not acting, unknown, ordinary. Famous stars are often perceived as playing a role, while new faces feel like just living this life. Less status distance, social distance, and parasocial interaction. A famous actor creates a large social distance. The viewer feels, he's above me, he's a star. This weakens parasocial interaction, the imaginary friendship with the character. An unknown actor means the distance is minimal. The viewer immediately relates to them as equals. Emotional connection forms faster and deeper. Novelty and freshness effect, novelty-seeking and dopamine. The brain loves novelty, novelty-seeking behavior. New faces activate the dopamine system more strongly than familiar ones. The viewer gets an extra rush of interest simply because this is something new. This increases engagement and the desire to keep watching. Psychologically, new faces work very powerfully. When an actor is unknown to anyone, the brain doesn't turn on the expectation filter. No associations with other roles, no halo from past films. The character feels pure, authentic, uncontaminated by prior baggage. That's why it's so easy for us to believe in Shane and Ilya, to imagine ourselves in their place, to feel their emotions as our own. And when the series exploded and the actors started doing press, they won everyone over completely. They didn't let fame go to their heads. Despite becoming global sensations practically overnight, millions of views, fan accounts, TikTok trends, red carpet invitations, they remained sincere and a little overwhelmed by all the attention. And viewers respond to this very strongly. The chemistry between the actors and the incredible performance of the main characters. Now about what is probably the very first and most important thing that makes people fall in love with this series, the chemistry between Hudson Williams and Connor Storrie. Psychologically, chemistry between actors is not just they played lovers well. It is when the viewer's brain starts working in mirror neuron mode. We literally catch the emotions of the characters. When Shane looks at Ilya, we feel the same tension in our chest. When Ilya smiles at Shane after an argument, we feel relief and warmth. This happens because mirror neurons fire not only when we do something ourselves, but also when we watch others, especially when those others trigger a strong emotional response. Hudson as Shane is the embodiment of restrained strength. Psychologically, this is very close to how many men, especially in sports, are used to living. Emotions kept inside, control on the outside. But Hudson shows the cracks in that armor, a slight tremble in the voice, a look that betrays fear, the moment when Shane lets himself cry. It's incredibly subtle work, all in the micro-expressions. The viewer sees, yes, he is strong, but he hurts too. And that creates deep empathy. Connor's Ilya is all raw energy, aggressive at first glance, but clearly protecting deep pain. His rough way of speaking, and then sudden softness in moments of closeness. All of this creates the feeling of a real person who is fighting with himself. This works through psychological contrast. We see a man hiding vulnerability behind the mask of a tough guy, then letting it out, and that triggers a strong response. Because many viewers live exactly the same way. Together they create the feeling of a real connection because they show not perfect love, but a complicated one, with mistakes, arguments, awkwardness. Relationship psychology tells us we bond most deeply with stories of imperfect people growing together. The viewer sees. They also don't know how to be together, but they are trying. And they make it work. That gives hope and catharsis, especially to those who are afraid to open up in their own relationships. The chemistry is amplified by the fact that the actors do not pretend to be perfect couple off-screen. They tease each other in interviews, admit they were sometimes embarrassed during scenes, publicly support each other. That increases the feeling of authenticity. We believe in their characters because we believe in them as people. Beyond the performances themselves, there's another reason Heated Rivalry feels so fresh. The story itself is genuinely new. The series, a breath of fresh air in the era of remakes and reboots. Another reason Heated Rivalry landed so hard. It's genuinely original. In recent years, almost everything coming out has been a remake, a reboot, a sequel, or a continuation of something already familiar. But this, a completely blank canvas. And from a psychological point of view, that works very powerfully. The human brain loves novelty. This is called novelty-seeking behavior, an innate drive toward the new. When we encounter something unfamiliar, the dopamine system activates, the same one responsible for pleasure and motivation. Dopamine is released not only from the reward itself, but also from the anticipation of something new. With remakes, our brains already know the ending, what twists will come, who the hero is, who the villain is. Expectation drops and dopamine barely releases. We watch out of habit or nostalgia, not because we're hooked. A new story is like an open door into the unknown. We don't know what will happen next, how the plot will turn, how Shane and Ilya's relationship will end. That creates anticipation, the delicious tension of not knowing. Psychologists call this the information gap theory. The brain cannot tolerate uncertainty and wants to close the gap. The bigger the knowledge gap, the stronger our urge to keep watching. Remakes have no gaps, we already know everything. Heated Rivalry is all questions. How will they handle this? What happens next? Will they manage to stay together? There's also the freedom from constant comparison. When the story is new, we don't compare it nonstop to an original. There are no phrases like, the actor was better in the old movie. This has already been done. The brain doesn't spend energy on criticism and comparison. It simply immerses itself in the story. That makes the viewing experience cleaner and more emotional. Book readers have largely praised the adaptation, saying it was handled very carefully and respectfully to the source material. I completely agree. The creators approached the screen version with real care. Finally, there's the freshness factor itself. We're psychologically wired to respond more intensely to novelty. In an era of endless rehashes, an original story feels like a gift. It gives the feeling, this was made just for me right now, not this is a rehash of something old. That increases emotional involvement and gratitude toward the creators. Heated Rivalry feels like a breath of fresh air because it gives the brain what it is missing right now. Novelty, uncertainty, pure emotional immersion without filters from the past. And that is one of the main reasons it became viral so quickly. People are tired of repetitions and desperately wanted something real and new. What about you? Are you tired of endless reboots, or can you still enjoy them? Let me know in the comments. Mutual feelings and the development of fairly healthy relationships. Why this brings so many positive emotions and a sense of safety. One of the strongest sides of Heated Rivalry is that the feelings between Shane and Ilya are mutual. At the story's beginning, they are only 17, 18 years old. Everything is awkward, scary, full of mistakes and an inability to talk about feelings. The main events of their relationship unfold much later, when they are around 25. By that point, they are no longer teenagers. They have years of career pressure, separations, and growing up behind them. Which makes it all the more moving to watch how two people who started with complete inexperience, especially in same-sex relationships, gradually learn what it really means to be together. They talk. They argue. They come back. They admit their fears. They learn to trust. And in the end, they build a connection that feels quite healthy, without manipulation, without constant control, without you have to change for me. Psychologically. This triggers intensely positive emotions for several reasons. First, the reciprocity principle. When a person sees that feelings are mutual, the brain receives a powerful signal of safety. This is a primal mechanism. If the other person responds to your attachment, it means you will not be rejected. It means you are safe. In an era when many people are afraid to open up and risk rejection, watching two people overcome fear and still choose each other feels like medicine for the nervous system. The viewer literally feels, if even they managed it, then I have a chance too. Second, rupture and repair. Psychologists have long noticed that the strongest relationships are not built where everything is perfect, but where there are conflicts and then honest repair. The series shows this many times. Arguments, misunderstandings, distance, and then return, conversation, embrace. Each such cycle tells the viewer, conflict is not the end, it is normal. You can fight and still stay loved. This creates profound comfort and safety, especially for those who in childhood or past relationships learned that after a fight everything falls apart. Third, mirroring growth and healing adolescent wounds. At 17, 18, the characters are typical teenagers, afraid of rejection, unable to talk about feelings, making mistakes. By 25, they are already adult men who have gone through errors, career pressure, loneliness, and still learn to be honest and supportive. Viewers in their 20s and 30s see their own journey reflected. I was also afraid to open up once, also made mistakes, also thought I would not be accepted. And they managed, so I can too. This creates what therapists call a corrective emotional experience. The brain rewrites old beliefs. If I show my real self, I will be abandoned. To new ones, it is possible to be vulnerable and still be loved. Fourth, unconditional acceptance as a model for healthy love. The series has none of the classic toxic patterns. No one demands the other become perfect. They accept each other with accents, with character, with past, with mistakes. This is one of the most psychologically healing images possible, seeing two people learn to love each other without conditions. For many viewers, this is a feeling of scarcity, and seeing it on screen actually calms the nervous system. So this exists. So I am also worthy of such love. That is why the show leaves viewers feeling so warm, relieved, and comforted. This is not a fairy tale about everything perfect right away. This is a story about how two people grow together, make mistakes, learn, and in the end become a safe place for each other. And in our time, when many feel loneliness and fear of rejection, such a message acts like a balm. Shane's relationship with his parents. Another tearjerker. Shane's relationship with his parents, especially the conversation with his mom in the final episode. Shane's parents are a rare and beautiful example. Both of them are wonderful. They always supported him, traveled to almost every competition, celebrated his victories, held him after losses, stood by him in difficult moments. These are not parents who pressure or demand, be a man. These are people who love their son simply for being himself. Here's what makes this psychologically devastating. Despite all that love and support, Shane was terrified to open up to them until the very end. He was terrified to come out, couldn't imagine telling them about Ilya, feared they would turn away, stop respecting him, be disappointed. That fear lived in him for years, even with the best parents imaginable. Why does this happen? First, the gap between reality and internalized beliefs. Even when parents are objectively loving and accepting, an old belief can still sit deep in the mind. If I show my real self, they will not accept me. This belief usually forms not at home, but in the broader culture. School, locker rooms, sports, society, where being gay equals weakness, shame, exclusion. Shane internalized those messages long before understanding his own feelings. And even though his parents proved the opposite 1,000 times, the fear remained. A classic case of social trauma, overriding lived experience of love. Second, fear of shattering an idealized relationship. Shane deeply values his parents. They are his safe harbor. He subconsciously fears, if I tell the truth, this perfect connection might break. It's not about actual rejection. It's about losing the fantasy. My parents will always be proud of me. Many viewers recognize themselves here. Even with the best parents, there is still the fear. What if I become a disappointment to them? Third, the power of vulnerability meeting acceptance. When Shane finally comes out, he's completely exposed. He shows his biggest vulnerability. And instead of judgment, loss, or distance, he receives an embrace, words of love and confirmation. You are our son. We love you. Everything will be okay. This is the direct embodiment of one of the most healing experiences in psychology, unconditional acceptance after maximum openness. For viewers who never experienced this, or rarely did, the scene becomes emotional medicine. The tears come from both old wounds, I never got this, and new hope, so it is possible. Fourth, the contrast with Ilya's parents and vicarious healing. Ilya's parents are painfully familiar to many. Coldness, expectations, rejection. That causes anger and sadness. Shane's parents represent what so many never had. When Shane receives the acceptance he, and we, desperately needed, vicarious healing occurs, healing through watching. Even if it never happened to us, our brains register hope. So parents can be like this. So you can be yourself and not lose your family. That is why the Una conversation and the whole parent storyline hits so hard. It is not just a touching moment. It is the moment when the viewer receives what was so often missing. Confirmation that you can be vulnerable, show your full self, and still be loved. Even with perfect parents, fear can still live inside. And when that fear meets love, deep relief and healing happen. Special circumstances, being gay in a highly masculine sport. Another thing that makes Heated Rivalry so magnetic and emotionally rich is the context. Two gay men in the very masculine world of hockey. This is not just background, it is a massive source of tension and at the same time healing for the viewer. Several powerful psychological mechanisms are at work. First, identity conflict, self versus social expectations. Hockey is a world where masculinity is often defined very narrowly. Strength, aggression, don't whine, be a man. Emotions are suppressed, vulnerability is seen as weakness. When Shane and Ilya realize their feelings for each other, they face an internal conflict. If I accept this, will I stop being a real man in the eyes of the team, the coaches, the world? Viewers feel this tension viscerally, especially if they have ever lived through similar pressure. Being myself losing respect. This triggers both deep empathy and vicarious anxiety. Viewers literally experience tribal exclusion anxiety. Second, forbidden fruit and dopamine spikes. Society, especially in sports, still often sees same-sex relationships as taboo. When the characters have to hide their feelings, it adds an extra layer of danger and excitement. This creates dopamine roller coasters. Risk, secret meetings, relief, risk again. Viewers get an emotional adrenaline rush from the fact that they're not supposed to, but they're together anyway. Classic psychology. Forbidden fruit tastes sweeter. Third, vicarious acceptance as healing. The show's greatest gift, watching Shane and Ilya find their way forward together. They do not leave hockey, do not hide forever, do not change who they are. They stay themselves, strong athletes, and at the same time allow themselves to love each other. For LGBTQ+ viewers, or anyone who ever felt different in a masculine space, this becomes powerful vicarious healing. They heal simply by watching. The brain receives proof. It is possible to be gay in a masculine world and not lose yourself. It is possible to be accepted. This reduces internal shame and fear, gives a sense of safety and hope. Fourth, masculinity redefined. The series shows that real strength is not in suppressing emotions, but in accepting them. Shane and Ilya remain tough hockey players, but they also know how to cry, ask for support, admit weaknesses. Viewers realize, being a man does not mean being stone, it means being honest. For many, this becomes a liberating moment, especially for those who grew up with the belief men don't cry. That is why the theme of gay men in a masculine sport is not just background. It creates huge emotional tension and then huge relief. We journey with them from, they'll reject me, to I can be loved as I am. And in a world where many men still fear being vulnerable, this message works like deep medicine. The normalization of a foreign accent. Another moment that resonates very deeply with viewers is how the series treats Ilya's foreign accent. He speaks English with a thick Russian accent, sometimes stumbles over words, constructs sentences imperfectly, and none of this ever stops him from being a beloved character, succeeding in his career, or being loved in his relationship. Several deep psychological mechanisms are at play. First, destigmatizing imperfection. Non-native English speakers often spend their lives feeling less than in Anglophone spaces. They are afraid to speak because my accent is shameful. They won't understand me. I'll look stupid. This hits especially hard for immigrants, international students, and anyone working across languages. When Ilya speaks unself-consciously with his accent, makes mistakes, but remains confident, successful, attractive, and loved, viewers receive a powerful message. Imperfect language does not make you less. You can still be respected, loved, valued. This reduces internal shame and fear. The brain rewrites the old belief, accent equals weakness, into a new one. Accent equals just part of who I am. Second, representation creating mirror identification. For anyone with an accent or language struggles, Ilya becomes a mirror. They see, Here is someone like me. He doesn't speak perfectly either, but he achieves everything: career success, love, respect from the team. This creates vicarious pride through watching. The viewer feels, if he could do it, then I'm not hopeless. This cuts deep for anyone who's felt othered by language. Third, decoupling competence from accent. Society often carries an unspoken belief. If you speak with an accent, you are less competent. Ilya destroys that stereotype. He is one of the best players, a leader on the ice. Confident in himself, and the accent never goes away. This is psychologically liberating. Viewers realize, my skills and value do not depend on pronunciation. I can be successful exactly as I am. Fourth, relief from constant linguistic self-monitoring. Many viewers, especially immigrants or bilingual people, constantly feel pressure. You have to speak perfectly or you won't be accepted. Watching Ilya live fully with his accent, never held back, brings relief. You don't have to be perfect in language to be loved and respected. This lowers chronic stress and anxiety tied to language barriers. That is why Ilya's accent is not just a detail. It is a powerful symbol of accepting imperfection. Viewers think, if he could achieve everything with an accent like that, then my flaws are not a life sentence. I can be valued simply for who I am. This is one of the quietest but deepest reasons why the series touches people all over the world. The happy ending, why it brings so much joy and relief. And finally, the happy ending. After everything, the fear, fights, separations, Shane and Ilya stay together. Not an ambiguous ending, not a tragedy, not it's complicated. A genuine happy ending, they found their way, and we see they're safe. Yes, a second season is coming, but I'm focusing on season 1 here. Psychologically, this kind of ending creates a huge amount of positive emotions and deep relief for several reasons. First, closure and cathartic release. Throughout the entire series, the viewer lives in constant tension. It is a classic dopamine roller coaster. Fear, hope, fear, hope. When everything resolves happily in the end, the brain gets a powerful release of dopamine and oxytocin. It is like finally exhaling after a long climb up a mountain. Physiologically, cortisol levels drop, the nervous system calms, and there is a feeling of everything is okay, I can relax. Second, antidote to existential uncertainty. The world feels incredibly unstable right now. Jobs, relationships, economy, politics, everything can collapse at any moment. Most shows amplify this with ambiguous or tragic endings. Heated Rivalry offers rare stability. Yes, there were difficulties, but they made it. They are together. They are happy. This acts like a psychological anchor. Viewers get confirmation that good things can win. In an era of constant upheaval, such an ending feels like medicine for anxiety. Third, catharsis through vicarious victory. The viewer lives through all the fears with the characters. Rejection, loss, shame, loneliness. Then watch them overcome it all, not perfectly, not magically, but through honesty, support, and work on themselves. This is called vicarious victory, when the brain gets emotional relief through someone else's success. It works especially strongly if the viewer fears similar things, coming out to parents, opening up to a partner, facing the world. The ending says, it is possible to go through all this and come out into the light. This brings hope and the feeling I can do it too. Fourth, faith in lasting love restored. Modern media often frames relationships as complicated, temporary, doomed. The happy ending in Heated Rivalry restores faith. It is possible to build something real, overcome difficulties, and stay together. This is especially healing for those who have experienced breakups, betrayals, or are simply tired of cynicism. That is why the finale brings so much joy, tears of relief, and warmth. It is a message. Even in the most difficult world, even with the scariest fears, it is possible to find safety, love, and happiness. For many viewers, this becomes a moment of deep emotional rest. After all the ups and downs, the series leaves the feeling, everything will be okay. And that is exactly why it leaves such a bright afterglow. Healthy masculinity, embracing vulnerability and acceptance. Heated Rivalry's portrayal of healthy masculinity is another reason it resonates so deeply. Shane and Ilya are both hockey players living in a world where masculinity is often defined very narrowly. Be tough, hide emotions, never show weakness. But throughout the series, they gradually learn something different. To open up to each other, admit their fears, ask for support, cry, apologize, be tender. And most importantly, when they do this, they are not rejected. They are accepted. They are respected and loved even more. This works at profound psychological depths. First, masculinity redefined. The traditional model of masculinity, often called toxic masculinity, teaches a man does not cry, never show weakness, always be strong. This drives many people, especially men, to suppress emotions, self-isolate, fear intimacy. In the series, Shane and Ilya show the opposite. Real strength is in being honest with yourself and with the person close to you. They remain tough athletes, but they also know how to be vulnerable, and that does not make them weaker, it makes them stronger. Viewers, especially men, realize you can be masculine and still feel. You can ask for help and not lose respect. This breaks old beliefs and gives permission. I can be like that too. Second, secure attachment modeled. When one character opens up, for example, admits fear, pain, love, the other does not leave, does not mock, does not use it against him. He supports, listens, hugs, says, "I'm with you." This is the classic model of secure attachment, the kind of safe bond many lacked in childhood or past relationships. Watching becomes emotional medicine, so it is possible to show weakness and not be abandoned, so closeness can be safe. Third, mirror identification healing shame. Many people learned early that showing emotions equals shameful, especially in sports, where weakness is often mocked. When Shane or Ilya ask for support or admit fear, and are still accepted and loved, viewers experience powerful emotional correction. The brain rewrites the old belief, emotions equals shame, into a new one. Emotions equals normal, and I will be loved for them. This reduces chronic shame and internal tension. Fourth, new relationship blueprints. The series shows that healthy relationships between men are possible even in a world where this is considered not manly. They support each other's careers, celebrate successes, help in hard moments. Do not compete toxically. For the viewer, this becomes an example. You can be together and not destroy each other. You can be strong and tender at the same time. That is why the theme of healthy masculinity in the series brings so many positive emotions: relief, inspiration, warmth. Viewers realize you can be a man in a new way. You can open up and still be loved. You can be vulnerable and still be strong. Becoming heroes, the classic hero's journey, overcoming challenges together. The last thing that makes Heated Rivalry so powerful and emotionally complete is how the series follows the classic hero's journey, but walking it together. At the beginning, Shane and Ilya are two separate people, each carrying their own fears, expectations, loneliness. By the end, they have gone through trials, fear of rejection, internal conflicts, social judgment, and they defeat Shane's biggest problem, coming out to his parents together. They do not just fall in love, they grow, unite, and become stronger precisely because of each other. This works psychologically on multiple levels. First, Campbell's hero's journey archetype. This is a universal structure that lives in the collective unconscious. The hero leaves the ordinary world, faces trials, meets mentors, allies, confronts the shadow, their own fear, wins, and returns transformed. We recognize it subconsciously and engage emotionally. When the heroes walk this path together, it intensifies the catharsis. We are not alone in our trials. It is possible to find an ally and win together. Second, union healing isolation. Many viewers carry deep loneliness or the belief, I must handle everything alone. When Shane and Ilya solve their biggest problem not alone, but hand in hand, it sends a powerful message. You are not required to carry everything by yourself. There are people with whom you can go through hell and come out whole. This resonates especially strongly with those who grew up with the belief, a man must cope alone, or you can't trust anyone. Third, collective efficacy defeating fear. Psychology shows that the feeling, we are stronger together, collective efficacy, significantly reduces anxiety and increases confidence. Shane is terrified to come out to his parents. That is his personal fear. But when Ilya is there, supporting, reminding, simply holding his hand, the fear becomes smaller. We see, even the biggest fear can be defeated if there is someone who believes in you. This offers hope. If they managed it together, then I'm not hopeless. Fourth, completing the maturation arc. At the beginning, two teenagers who do not know how to love, fear themselves, fear the world. By the end, adult men who have learned to accept themselves and each other, admit weaknesses, ask for help. This is the classic path of maturation, individuation in Jung's terms, from separation and fear to wholeness and love. The viewer gets a sense of completion. The story does not cut off mid-sentence. It brings the heroes to maturity. And that gives the brain a feeling of peace. Yes, growth is possible. Yes, you can come out of pain a different person. That is why the finale, where they overcome Shane's biggest problem together, brings so much joy and relief. It is proof. You can go through fear, loneliness, pressure, and become stronger if there is someone walking beside you. In the end, Heated Rivalry works because it gives us what we desperately need right now. Hope, safety, and proof that love can win even in the hardest circumstances. It shows that vulnerability is strength, that growth is possible, and that you don't have to face your fears alone. No wonder millions of people can't stop watching and rewatching and talking about it.